Did you know that every year there are billions of dollars being exchanged and wagered on in these sports books on NFL season long props alone? So, for the year 2023, we decided to get in on the action. We're doing our top 8 favorite overs in terms of player props. And if all 8 of these hit, we're going to 100x our dollars on Drafters Fantasy Sports. And you can get in on the fun and get in on the action with us by signing up on Drafters Fantasy Sports using promo code DiscoDrafts1. We'll match your initial deposit up to $100. So say you deposit $100, guess what? We'll throw in another 100, so you'll have $200 to play with. Now, I need to put this disclaimer in here before we get into the first player on our list, and that is tail these props at your own risk. I am not liable for any losses. Things happen all the time. And if you or somebody you know has a gambling problem or addiction, please seek help. Without further ado, let's get into player number 1. And that player is none other than Austin Ekeler. His player prop this year is 4.5 receiving touchdowns, and we're smashing the over. He averages 4.8 receiving TDs per season in 6 years of playing football in the NFL. 29 total receiving touchdowns is bonkers. 5 or more receiving touchdowns in 3 of his last 4 seasons. Now, I guess that, there are a few question marks, like they got a new offensive coordinator and Kellen Moore, and Justin Herbert just got paid a lot, and they really want to utilize him in every avenue and aspect. And, they're going to fade the running back, but you don't have a talent like Austin Ekeler and not use him. And his contract incentives for receiving TDs attached to his franchise tag illustrate that there is a need for him to be used more now than ever, because we don't know how long his career is going to last. And for that, we know that he needs to go and ball out. So 4.5 TDs receiving for Austin Ekeler. I'm smashing that. I love that. It's a great prop. And this next prop is also another one that you really need to take advantage of. And that next player prop is none other than Christian McCaffrey. His player prop this year is also 4.5 receiving touchdowns. His career average is 3.14 receiving TDs per year, but that's due to the previous circumstances of being in an awful team for many years when he was up there in Carolina. So why are we smashing the over on CMC this year? In the small sample we have seen from CMC with the San Francisco 49ers, the numbers are outstanding and can't be denied. In 2022, CMC had 5 total receiving touchdowns, 1 when he was playing for the Carolina Panthers, and then 4 in his 11-game stint when he was up in San Fran. So if we do the math real quick, should CMC have played a full 17 games in San Francisco, that number of receiving touchdowns would have jumped up to 6.8 receiving touchdowns. Pair that with the fact that he's now had a full offseason with Kyle Shanahan, who's an offensive genius, mad mind, and they're adding, a proper scheme that's built around utilizing CMC and all of his productivity and all of his intangibles of being a dual threat RB. Expect CMC to have a career year, because if it's not this year, it's never going to happen. And I know CMC gets hurt a lot. And I know, that could happen again. But we're not going to not take these risks and take these gambles because somebody can get hurt. It's football. Anytime somebody lines up, they can get hurt. Speaking of guys who got hurt but still produced, let's talk about this next guy. Now, that next guy is none other than Naji Harris. The Naji hate stops here. His current receiving TDs prop is at 2.5 receiving TDs. And here's why we have him projected to absolutely smash this. Point number 1, Naji is healthy. Despite last year dealing with several injuries that could have potentially slowed him down, Naji still produced 3 receiving touchdowns in an inconsistent and inefficient offense that was run by a rookie quarterback for a couple of weeks in Mitch Trubisky. You tell me a good player at the skill position who's played with Mitch Trubisky. Anyways, Najee has met these numbers each of his first 2 seasons in the NFL and should match it, if not exceed these numbers in 2023. And here's why. In his first 2 seasons, he averaged a total of 73.5 receiving targets and has added an insane average of 57.5 receptions per season. Now, sure, he took a dip last year in terms of opportunity and receptions, but still managed to be efficient with those numbers, converting 41 receptions out of 53 targets. That's a whopping 77 completion rate to Najee. Pair that with the fact that in Kenny Pickett's 5 games as a starter, Najee saw 18 targets in the 5 games that Pickett played. Should they both have played 17 games in 2023, Najee's numbers would have jumped from 53 to 61 targets. So look for more of the same, if not an improvement, because they've also improved everywhere they had to improve in the offseason. They fortified that line, so Najee's going to be productive in both in the run and in the pass. We love this bet. Smash this bet. Now, this next one is another one that's a no-brainer, and I have no idea why these sports books would have this prop so low for somebody who's supposed to produce so freaking much. This other guy for us, he's got a lot of nicknames. First one, Quadosaurus Prime. He also goes by Quadlo Escobar. We also know him as Quadimus Decimus Meridius. Did I say Quadlo Escobar? Anyways, this other guy, none other than Mr. AJ Dillon. I generally love this picture. This is a good picture. The reason why we love AJ Dillon's prop, which is 700.5 rushing yards, and we're smashing and loving the over here, is because quietly in the last 2 seasons, Dillon has averaged 786.5 rush yards per season, and we're expecting this number to jump. Now, I don't know if you know this, but there's a new quarterback in town in Green Bay, and based on the fact that the Packers need to depend on the run game a little bit more heavier, a little bit more, expect anywhere between 10 to 13% increase in his usage in the run game. So if he's averaging well over 700 yards per season and now they got to run more, it only makes sense to smash the over. Now I'm done making sense. This next one is just one of those props that I really have a good feeling about, and it's on a guy that I've really been drafting a lot in our drafters best ball tournaments. I have way too much exposure. And if you don't know what drafters best ball tournaments are, make sure you, 1, subscribe to our channel. 2, make sure that you also turn the bell notifications on, because we're live every night, drafting in these high stakes best ball tournaments, and you got to join us. All right. So yeah, this next guy might be a little bit of a head scratcher, but I'll tell you why I like him. Before we talk about this next guy, I just want to say and put this out there that we're going to do these next 4 rapid fire. So thank you guys for being patient and being a real one and tuning in and watching this. And I hope you stay through till the end. Generally appreciate it. But yeah, that next guy is none other than Samaje Perine. His prop is 600.5 rushing yards. And I mean, I could sit here and bore you with some BS statistical breakdown and talk about, true yards per carry and bore you to absolute death, but I won't do that. There's 2 reasons why I really like Samaje Perine this year. And reason number 1 is, historically speaking, when you're looking at a Sean Payton run offense, the running back and the kind of running back who gets more utilization in his offenses are the dual threat receiving backs. So that's Samaje Perine in that backfield. And then the reason number 2 why I really like Samaje Perine this year is, though Javonte Williams is active in training camp and he's taking reps in training camp and he's going to play in preseason games, he's still coming off of a brutal knee injury where it was his ACL that was torn, his MCL that was torn, his PLC that was torn, similar to what happened to J.K. Dobbins last year. So even though he's healthy, and I'm glad he's healthy and he's going to play, it's still going to take him some time to ramp up and get that bell cow utilization. And for that reason, I love me some Samaje Perine. And I mean, like, you could also throw in the fact that they fortified that O-line by bringing in two phenomenal players. Samaje Perine, 600.5 rushing yards. I'm glad that he's finally somewhere that he can be the guy, and I think this is going to be his coming out party. The next guy we like, and the next prop we like, is David Montgomery over 7 rushing yards. So we will keep this one, very simple. 7 rushing touchdowns. We love this prop. Last year is last year, and I know, I get it, but Jamal Williams rushed for 17 touchdowns in Detroit's offense behind that tremendous offensive line. Now, I'm not saying Jamal Williams sucks. And that historic season was like something that he earned, like every touchdown he earned. He's very passionate, blah, 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 blah. But David Montgomery is a way better and way harder runner and the clear-cut favorite to receive majority of the workload in the red zone should the Detroit Lions get there. Because if you look, at the other running back that they just drafted with the 12th overall pick in this year's 2023 rookie draft, they got Jahmyr Gibbs, who is a good running back, but he's also 190 pounds. So you should see more of Jahmyr Gibbs in the receiving aspect. I'm very curious to see what his receiving prop is because Drafters does not have it up. But yeah, so even if Montgomery should see half of the production of Jamal Williams last year, he should easily smash this prop. So I'm drafting him as much as I possibly can in these best ball tournaments. And the fact that the touchdown prop's only at 7, absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So I love that. Now, this next guy, a lot of you are probably going to be like, you're an idiot for taking this prop, but I don't care, man. I don't care what you guys say. And he's none other than Justin Fields. We're taking the over 2,950.5 passing yards. And it's probably the most risky prop of all of the ones that I have talked about. But the reason why I like the over is because the Chicago Bears had one hell of an offseason. Offensively, they brought in DJ Moore. They added Nate Davis, offensive guard from the Tennessee Titans. They drafted rookie offensive tackle Darnell Wright from the University of Tennessee. And they also drafted a very highly touted pass protector in the form of a running back. That's none other than Roschon Johnson. Had Roschon Johnson not been Bijan Robinson's backup, Roschon would be in discussion with the Bijans, with the Gibbs. So he's another guy, and I know like we're going off topic here, but he's another guy who, like, if you are doing these best ball tournaments, get as much exposure as you can to him, because even though he's not going to start off the season like absolutely crushing it, towards the later end of the season, they're going to go with Roschon. He's going to finish off the season. I guarantee you that. Allergies. And now you're going to be like, okay, let's get back to the task at hand. Why the hell am I talking about blocking? Last year, on 387 dropbacks, Fields was sacked 55 times. That's 14.7% of his dropbacks that were resulted in sacks. Pair that with the fact that the remaining 332 dropbacks where Fields was not sacked, Fields was also hurried and hit on 44% of those dropbacks. So, offensive coordinator, head coach looked at each other and like, well, I mean, we got a decent player there at the quarterback position, but we can't block in pass protection worth a damn. So we're going to have to revitalize and recreate this offensive scheme that we had where we wanted to be balanced and just go into a very run-heavy approach. And yeah, like there's articles where the coaches have both stated that they wanted to protect Fields, that it wasn't sustainable. They wanted to compete. And yes, I know they only won 3 games, but they did become more competitive in games when they were running the ball a little bit more. You have to go with what you got. What they had was just a running game. And yeah, long story short, the Bears had to change things up and, go more run focused because the pass pro was historically bad. To add insult to injury, the 2022 Bears wide receivers were the absolute worst in the NFL when it comes to terms of getting separation per yards routes run. They were the worst. This year, expect the run game to remain dominant, but now with receiving trio of DJ Moore, Chase Claypool, Darnell Mooney, and then also factor in Cole Kmet in there, expect more deep ball completions and expect more big passing games from Fields based off of big bomb plays. He's not going to make it based off of volume alone. He's not going to be a volume passer, but we're going to see a lot of big chunk plays because he's going to have time. And I guarantee you his receivers can win those one-on-one, battles down the field, and Fields is going to sling it. And yeah, that's kind of why I'm the most convinced on it. And like, if that's not enough, he would only have to average 173.52 passing yards per game. So if you factor in a couple 300 yards per game, or a couple 300-yard games, Fields should smash this. So I'm smashing the over. If you don't like the over, I understand why, but I'm a Justin Fields truther, and I'm going to be a truther through and through. Now, this other guy, you guys are also going to hate, but once again, it seems too good to be true to pass on, and that's none other than Desmond Ritter. And, the prop I can't stop smashing is Desmond Ritter over 2,650 passing yards, 2,650.5 passing yards to be exact. In the short time span we saw Ritter playing last year, based off of 4 games, he averaged a total of 177 passing yards per game. Mariota, on the other hand, the guy who played the other 13 games, he was horrible passing quarterback, and he averaged 173 yards passing per game in this Arthur Smith offense. So in order for Ritter to pass that milestone of 2,650.5 passing yards this year, he would only need to average 155 pass yards per game in a 17-game season. And I feel like they brought in some pretty decent, spectacular pieces this offseason. They also got a healthy Kyle Pitts who should be utilized more. And sure, the big knock on Kyle Pitts is he can't score touchdowns, but we're not talking about touchdowns. We're talking about Ritter's passing yards. Ritter's got now Drake London, Kyle Pitts. They drafted this guy in the top of the draft named Bijan Robinson, this electric dual threat running back who is a phenomenal pass catcher. And we've seen in camp highlights Bijan just absolutely roasting defenders. So that's another great person that they added. They also had a very sneaky signing in Mac Hollins, who had a tremendous year last year with the Las Vegas Raiders. Pair that with the fact that Cordero Patterson is not dead. He was drafted in the league as a wide receiver. Now they're going to utilize him more in the swing game, the screen game, some deep passes. Desmond Ritter should easily crush 2,650 yards. Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys enjoy this kind of content, please let me know in the comments. If you have not subscribed yet, please do. We got around 35, 36 days left of off-season time to get in these best ball drafts. So if you do want to get into one of these drafts with us, sign up on Drafters Fantasy Sports using promo code DiscoDrafts1. And here is a little illustration, little example of what a ticket would look like. And yes, I know it's a $1 bet, but I'm not going to show you guys how much I'm actually betting on these 8 props because the government could be watching. And yeah. Here's $1 turning into $100 on Drafters Fantasy. This is how you 8x your money. And if the season-long props aren't your deal, or if the NFL isn't your deal, they got it for basketball, hockey, golf, baseball, you name it, they got it. All right. And I'm really looking forward to smashing some of these props with you guys pre-game, because they're going to have player props every single game, and it's going to be super fun. Anyways, thank you guys. See you tonight in the live stream. Peace.